Okay, today we're going to discuss lab 10, where we focus on working with the data structure called list. We'll create a list and updating the list, and we'll look at or use some of the functions and methods on list. Now, a quick recap. Suppose I have a list of core quiz, which contains all the quiz score for each of the 12 quizzes. Okay, so we start counting from 0. Suppose quiz 0 is of score 4, quiz 1 is of score 2, quiz 2 is of score 3, and so on. Okay, so we have a couple of quiz here. Okay, now if you want to know how many quizzes are there, you can do length of quiz. Say there are 12 quizzes. And if you want to find out the score, so print the score of quiz, say, want to know the quiz 3, for example. So the score of quiz I is use format, something, dot format. So it will be quiz I, and the score of quiz I will be a square bracket quiz with 5. The score of quiz 3 will be 1. This is score of quiz 0, 1, 2, 3. Quiz 3 is of score 1. Now you can change this, for example, if you want to find the score of quiz 11, and now the score of quiz 11 is 1. Okay, there are 12 quizzes here, so the last quiz is quiz 11. All right, so there are 12 quizzes. The last quiz is quiz 11 because we start counting from 0. Right? Now, and we also learned that we can update the quiz score. For example, update quiz 0 score from 4 to, for example, to 5. Okay, so we can do so. For example, we do quiz 0. So this will access the score at the score of quiz 0, and we want to change it to 5 by using assignment. Okay, now if we want to print, say the score of quiz 0 is now, say, quiz 0, now it's 5. Okay, suppose I change it here. So originally, quiz score of 0 is 4. Quiz 0 is of score 4. Now, after updating it, the score of quiz 0 is now 5. Okay, and what else do we have learned? For example, we can do slicing. So if we want to retrieve or find the average score of all quizzes. Okay, so this is easy. So we can do the average score will be equals to sum of the quiz divided by the length of the quiz. Okay, and you can print a meaningful message, say the average score is just average score, the value of average score, say 3.25 in this case. Now, if you're interested in find the average score of the first 6 quizzes, so first 6 quizzes, okay? So we're gonna say I'm gonna find only the first 6 quizzes. So first half quiz. So we can do slicing. That is, we take the sublist starting from 0 all the way, but not include quiz 6. So 0 all the way, but not include quiz 6. This is also, so if you don't give 0, by default, it will be 0. So first half quiz, okay, say for print first half quiz. This will give you the first 6 score of the quizzes. And the average score of this first half will be first half quiz, length of first half quiz, right? The average score of the first 6 quizzes is this, okay? So it say that this is the first 6 quiz, the average score of the first 6 quiz is 3.5, for example, okay? Now, you can also do for the second half of the quiz, all right? So second half of the quiz, then you start from quiz 6 all the way to the end. So by default, that will be the length of the quiz. That means you take all the quiz score starting from quiz 6 all the way to quiz 11, okay? And then you can print out the second half of the quiz, and the average score of the second half of the quiz will be the corresponding sum divided by the number of second half of the quiz. We can print it, for example, the average score of the last 6 quizzes is, say, 3. Okay, it turns out the first 6 quiz we score better, 3.5, and the last 6 quiz we score 3. Okay. Now, these are just the very basics of using how to update, how to retrieve the score, how to update it using equal sign, and how to do slicing. Okay, and we also learn some of the functions. For example, we learn how to sort the list. Okay, so suppose you have quiz here. So let's first print quiz. Okay, so this is the quiz for individual score. And if I do quiz.sort, okay, then what will happen is that it will sort the elements in quiz in non-decreasing order. Okay, so when you run it, there's nothing happen because it's done behind the scene. It's done in place. Okay, sort the elements in quiz in place. Right. So if you want to see the effect after you do quiz.sort, you print out quiz again, and you will see that now the score has been sorted from the lower score to the higher score. Okay. Now, this might not be often what we want, because once you sorted it, you lose the fact that which one is of quiz 0 now. Okay. So earlier on, we have quiz 0 is of 5. Now we don't know which one is quiz 0 because it has been sorted. Okay, so if you want to know to sort the quiz not in the original quiz, but in a new copy or a duplicate of the quiz, you should create a new copy first. Okay, so let's write it down. So to find the to sort the quiz, okay, we have 2 options. Okay, so option 1, we can use dot sort method to sort in place. Okay, so however, we are after this method, after the execution of this method, we don't so basically the first score at the first element in quiz is no longer correspond to quiz number 0. Okay, so option 2 is that we use another method that does not sort in place but create a new list for which the elements is sorted. Okay, so we can do, for example, use help sorted. Okay, it returned a new list containing all items from the iterable. In our case, it's list in ascending order. Okay, so instead, so let's look at option 1. So this is option 1. So option 1 So option 1 to sort in place. Okay, and when you put in the quiz, all right, the first element in the quiz is no longer belong to quiz 0. It's just sorted everything in place, and we lose the information which one is quiz 0, which one is quiz 1, and so on. Okay, option 2 is to use sorted. Okay, option 2 is to use sorted. Use sorted function to create a new list where elements are rearranged to in ascending order, in non-decreasing order. Okay, so in other words, we have the original quiz here. Okay, this is the original quiz, and suppose I change it now to and then I create a new queue sorted, which is sorted quiz. Okay, now you can print quiz. It still stays the same. We have one original copy of quiz, and then we have another copy of sorted quiz, in which case every element has been rearranged in non-decreasing order. So option 2, create a new list where elements are sorted. Okay. Now, if we want to find out what is the score of quiz 0, we use quiz. Okay. If you want to work on the sorted elements of the quiz, we use quiz sorted. So we have two different lists to work on. If you use option 1 when you sort in place, however, we lose the information of which quiz. So example, after quiz.sort, this is the only copy of quiz scores that I have. And if I want to change quiz 0 to say 4, I actually can't do like before, where I do quiz 0 equals to 5, because now the elements has been sorted. The first element does not belong to quiz 0 anymore. Okay. Now, so these are the two options of how to use sort. And another thing that we have learned is that when we want to create a new copy, to create a copy of quiz, we can use slicing, okay, which we do quiz is, okay. What it means is that you create a new list starting from 0 all the way to n. That will create a duplicated copy. Okay, so here, for example, we have quiz equals to this, okay? And we have quiz copy is equals to quiz this, okay? Now, both of them will have the same element, okay? But if I change one, say quiz 0 now is equals to 5, and I look at the effect of this. So we know that it will change quiz copy 0 to 5, and it will, quiz 0 will stay, quiz copy 0 will be changed to 5. The original quiz 0 will stay as 4. Okay, so this is 5 and this is 4. However, if we do quiz copy is equals to quiz, now these two will be just as refer to the same exact list, just different names. So if we change one of them, say quiz 0 copy equals to 5, you will change both. Okay, so now in this case, even though we do not explicitly say quiz 0 is equals to 5, because they both refer to the same list, changing one will change both. So that's the difference between these two. Okay, so let's look at one use case of how we use lists. For example, you're asked to create an individual student grade system. So a system that maintains, update, and compute the final score of quizzes, which accounts for 50% of the total grade. So again, quiz numbers start with 0. So we have 12 quizzes. So the last quiz is quiz 11. And each quiz has maximum of 5 points. Each quiz score is either an integer or integer plus 0.5, right? Now, So we have number of quizzes is equals to 12. And we start with a blank state where individual student first at the beginning don't have any, all the quiz score is 0 because the student has not taken the quiz yet. So now we're going to create quiz for each individual student. Okay. And at the beginning, they're all the quiz score is 0. Okay. So we initialize all scores of quiz to 0. Now you can do that for 12 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you know me, you know that I don't do this for 12 times, writing 0 explicitly 12 times. Instead, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to write it just one time, and then I do multiply 12. Okay, so let's see what is print quiz. Quiz is all 12 elements of zeros in there. So you can check, for example, length of quiz is 12, which is exactly what I needed. Okay, so here, so what we have seen here is that if you want, we can create we can append element. We can combine two lists using plus. Okay, so basically, for example, I have quiz. For example, I have 0 plus 1. This will create a new list. Okay, where the first element is 0, second element is 1. Okay, and you can proceed forward with multiple, for example, 2, 3. So now we combine this list together, right? What we get is the one list with all the elements concatenated. Okay, and what happens is that we can also do that with multiplications. In this case, this is equivalent to 0 plus 0 plus 0. Okay, so which means we will create a new list where the first element is 0, second element is 0, and third element is 0. So you basically create an element where create a list where every element is 0 3 times. So this is exactly the same thing here. You're gonna create initialize a quiz, which is a list with 12 zeros here. Okay. Now you're asked to create a program to update the score for a particular quiz number. You ask user for the quiz number. We assume user's input is integer, and ask user for the score for the quiz with the quiz number, and we assume user's input valid score. Okay, so we have two assumptions here. When you ask user for an input for quiz number, it's a valid quiz number. It's between 0 to 11, include 11. And we also assume that user enter a valid score, which is either an integer or with a decimal of 0.5. Okay, so you're gonna ask user, this is for you to do. First, you ask user for an input. Okay, so for example, a quiz number. Okay, ask user for an input, and since we assume user enter an integer, we put int input, enter the quiz number to update, to enter the score. Okay, and then after you get user input quiz number, since we assume, so we assume user enters an integer between 0 and 11 inclusive. All right, and then now your job is to update this quiz number to the score. But before this, we need to ask the user for the score. Score for quiz number. So what is the score? Now, so you need to ask ask user for input of quiz number, quiz score for the quiz, for the score for that quiz number. Okay. Now we assume user enter the right value. A valid value is either integer or with decimal. Okay. So you can, for example, convert it to float. Okay, because 0.5 can be represented precisely. So, and of course for grade, we want to be precise. So we can convert it to float because 0.5, you can safely convert it to float because 0.5 can be represented precisely as floating point number. So there is no risk of routing off error. Okay. So we basically ask user for input, convert it to float, right? And then you're gonna now you're gonna update the value of quiz at quiz number with the score. Okay, so update is done by using assignment, which is like this. So we can have, for example, here, suppose user enter 0, then you will put quiz, square bracket, quiz number is equals to score based on user score. Now it's important that you make sure that you do convert it to float, because later on, what we're going to do is that, for example, we want to find the average score. We want to sum quiz, sum of all elements of quiz. And if you have sum of them is equals to string, you can't add string with integer. Okay, so it's important you keep this quiz, every element in quiz as a integer or floating point numbers. In our case, it's floating point numbers. Okay. Now, second, so the issue with the above code is that if user enter quiz number that is greater or equals to the length of quiz, then there will be an index error. Okay. So if we take off the assumption that the user enter a number that is valid, quiz number that is valid, then we might encounter index error. So we're going to extend the above program to do the following. We ask user for quiz number, we assume users enter input integer. If user enter a valid quiz number, then we ask user for the score and update the score according to the user input. We assume user enter a valid score. Otherwise, we display invalid input. Okay. So here we're gonna extension quiz number. You ask user for an integer, and we're gonna do some check. Okay, so if quiz number is less to be valid. Okay, so remark a quiz number is valid if it is between 0 and 11 inclusive. Okay, so if, so this is for you to do, quiz number is greater than 0, so you're gonna write an if statement. Such that if quiz number is greater than 0, greater or equal to 0, and less than or equal to 11, all right? We can be more general, less than or equal, less than the length quiz, okay? So as long as it's within the 0 and less than length of quiz, that means we will be able to access these elements here to change, okay? Then you ask user for the input of score. Then you ask user for input, okay? And you also update the value of the quiz with the corresponding user input. Score, remember to convert it to float. Otherwise, if user input a quiz number, say negative number, or say quiz number 12, but we can't have quiz number 12 because our quiz only has 12 elements and we start counting from 0, so there is no index 12. You will get an index error. So else you just print invalid input. Okay. Okay. Now, again, we extend the previous programs. So when we start writing a system, a program, we start with some assumptions to make things easy. We start with the first assumption: user always enter a valid quiz number. User always enter a valid score. And then we slowly open up and say, relaxing the condition and say that what if user enter an invalid number? Then we don't want we don't want the system to crash. Rather, we print or display to the user that is an invalid input, right? Now we further extend it, okay? Say again, we ask user for quiz number. We assume user's input integer. Again, if user enter a valid quiz number, we ask user for the score and update the score. Okay, we assume user enter a valid score. Otherwise, we ask user to indicate if the score is required to be added to the list. For example, okay, so for example, current quiz has only 12 elements. Okay, if user enter 12 as quiz number, okay, trying to do quiz number will give an index error. Okay, because there is no index 12. The last index is 11 when you have only 12 elements because we count from 0. Now, in that case, we have the option to give to the user, say that maybe you want to add the new quiz. Okay, maybe the original quiz has not enough elements. Okay, maybe for example, in our cases, say originally I set it to have only 12 quizzes. Okay, and then now I change it and I say that because we have one more week extra and I'm going to give extra quiz. So now the number of quizzes becomes 13. Now in that case, I don't want to recreate the whole thing again. Rather, I want to be able to add that quiz score the user wanted to add directly into quiz itself. Okay, so in that case, we ask user whether he or she wanted this quiz score to be appended or added to the end of the quiz, okay? Of the list quiz. All right. So here we do the same thing. So we can ask if quiz number is greater or equal to 0 and less than length of quiz, then it's a valid index to the current number of elements of quiz here. Then we ask user for the score and we update the value of quiz using the score. Now else is an invalid input. Okay. Now we assume user enter positive integers. Okay. Okay. So else we ask the user whether you want to add this score into the current quiz list as a new quiz that is created, additional quiz. Okay, so we ask user, whether he wants to add this score to the list. So we can say print. Okay, so the quiz number is out of the current is exceeds quiz score exceeds the number of quizzes set initially. Okay, and then you ask user for input. Okay, so user input. Okay, you ask user, for example, do you want to add this quiz score do you want to add another quiz to the list? Okay. And we assume user either enter 0 or 1, right? So we're going to typecast it to int, right? If user enter 1, so if user input is equals to 1, all right, then we ask user for the score and update the score. Okay, and not updating it, but rather append the score to quiz. Now, how do we append it? So earlier on, we have seen that we can combine two lists using plus. Okay, so for example, you have your quiz is equals to this, for example, at the beginning. So if I want to add a new score, say 3, I can create a new list, okay, and then add it to the original quiz. And now I have 3 at the end. Now that's one option, okay? Now second options, so what happens is that this here, so if you, this will create, so this create, so when we say compile two lists using plus, create a new list, okay, create a new list, right? So which means this create a new list. All right, so if you print quiz, you see that there is no additional quiz score that you added. Quiz plus 3 create a new list that you did not, it's not inside, it create a new list with 3 additionally, with the score of additional quiz of 3 at the end. But this is a new list, it's not referred to the same list of quiz. The original quiz still stay as 12 elements, okay? So you can, for example, do quiz equals to quiz plus 3. And now, if you bring quiz, you will have your quiz here reflecting the new list, okay? Now that's one option. Now second option, so we can add elements into list, into a list in place without creating a new list, okay? So we can do this using append, okay? Suppose now my quiz is 003 and I want to add 4 at the end. If I want to add 4 at the end, I can do quiz.append 4. So when you execute it, nothing created because you do not create a new list. Rather, you change the value of the value quiz itself. Okay, so if you want to see the effect, you can print quiz now. You see that 4 has been added to quiz without you explicitly say that you create a new list, all right, and then you assign it to the variable quiz. This is creating a new list and assign a variable quiz to this so that you refer to this quiz now. And quiz.append 4, on the other hand, you did not create a new list, rather you just add it to the original list, okay? And of course, this is more efficient because right now you basically have two, one old quiz and one new quiz, and you discard the old quiz and refer the new quiz as quiz now. And here, the same list is used and you just add it to the end, the same list, okay? So in our case here, we want to append the score. So you do quiz.append score by adding the additional quiz number, by when user enters say quiz number is equals to 12, and user say that because there is a new quiz now, and I want to append this score in there, okay? Now, finally, you are asked to output the final total score for quiz. Okay, the final total score of quiz is the sum of the best 10 scores. Okay, so how do we do that? So first, so the strategy. Okay, we want to get the best 10 scores is to use hint, use sort. You sort it, for example, or if you don't care which school, if you don't have to keep track of which quiz number corresponds to which quiz score, you can do dot sort to sort in place. So for example, that we have seen here, you can do here. So quiz sorted equals to sorted quiz. Okay, use sorted to use the function sorted to create a sorted list of quiz. Okay, and okay, the best 10 scores of quiz of all the quizzes will be the last 10 elements of the sorted list. Okay, so if you look at here, we sorted. Okay, so this is suppose my quiz score here, and our quiz sorted is the sorted version of this quiz, and the best 10 score will be the last 10 of these scores of this here. So how do we get the last 10? So you use slicing. Okay, so you use slicing. Okay, so hints. First, you use the function to get a sorted list of quiz. Say we call it quiz sorted. Okay, to get the last 10 elements of quiz sorted. Okay, use slicing. That is quiz sorted. So you want the last 10 elements. So which one? Okay, so the last 10, so depends on how many elements you have. So what is the starting value? What is the end value? Okay, so what is the starting value? So quiz sort start end. Okay, this is for you to do, where start is a value on the starting point. So if you have only 12, where start is so assume that quiz, the length of the quiz, assume that we have 12 quizzes. Suppose we have 12 quizzes. Okay, so the last 10 quizzes, so the last 10 elements, since we're counting from 0, that will be we count from 2. So we need start will be 2. Okay. If we have 12 quizzes. Okay. So here's an example. Say if we want to know, this is quiz sorted. Okay. First, I check what is the length of quiz sorted, just to be sure. Say I have 12 elements. Okay. And I want to know the last 10 elements of this. So I do quiz sorted, starting from 2 all the way to the end. And I want to check the length. And this is 10. So the last 10 elements, okay, so the last 10 elements will be counting from index 2, starting from index 2 all the way to the end. So this is how we get the last 10 elements of the quiz. Okay, so here, this will display the last 10 elements of the quizzes. Assuming quiz sorted has 12 elements. Okay. Now, what if quiz sorted has more than 12 elements? So remember, in version 3, we actually allow user to add quiz score. Okay, so in that case, so we shouldn't hard-code this value of 2 here. Okay, this is assuming we have 12 quizzes, but we also allow the user in version 3 to add quiz score that is exceeding the amount of quizzes initially set. So which means the amount of quizzes can change over time. All right, and we don't want to keep track of it all the time. So how do we do it? We don't want to hard-code this 2 value here. So if we have 13 quizzes, we need to put this as 3, 14 quizzes, this will be 4, and so on. So to get the last 10 elements of quiz sorted, we should make it clear instead of hard-coded as 2, okay, it should be more general. Okay, so we should do quiz sorted. Okay, what is this value? So this is n by default means the n, so we just remove it by default. Quiz sorted for what value of start to the end to get the last 10 elements. So what is this value here? So if you have 13, this should be 3. If you have 14, this should be 4. So it depends on the length of the quiz. Okay. Minus 10. Okay, so we have a 14 elements in the quiz sorted, minus 10 will be 4. So you start counting, you start taking the score at index 4. Okay, so to be more general, you should write this. Okay, quiz sorted, length of quiz sorted minus 10, this will be your starting. So you start taking from this index all the way to the end. Okay, and that will create a sublist that contain the last 10 elements of quiz sorted, and that corresponds to the best 10 scores of the quiz. Okay, and lastly, you find the sum of, sorry, the final value, so the final total score for quiz will be the sum of these last 10 elements, okay, of quiz sorted. So you can just do sum of this. So you do sum and then quiz sorted this, right? So this will be output the final total score for quiz. Now this is option 1, of course. And if you say that, can I sort from, because I only care for the maximum 10 score, can I sort it in reversing order? Okay, so instead of putting the best score towards the end, can I sort it, for example, in the reverse order? So the best 10 score will be there. So this can be done too, for example. So if you go to help, sorted, right? And you say that there is one option called reverse equals to false, which means that by default, okay, you sort in ascending order from lowest to highest. We can also sort in different order. Okay, so quiz sorted reverse equals to sorted quiz. Okay, now you set reverse equals to true. Okay, so let's see what we get here. We have print quiz sorted reverse. Now it's sorted in reverse order. Okay, so let's look at the original quiz first. And let's run this part. Okay, now the best 10 score actually at the front, not towards the end. Okay, so now if I want to display the first 10 elements of the quiz, assuming quiz order has 12 elements, instead of starting from 2, I start from 0 all the way up to 9, but not up to 10, but not including 10. So now my quiz sorted reverse, or it should be reverse. Okay, here will contain the first 10 quizzes that are the best, because you sorted reverse from best to from the highest score to the lowest score. Okay, so in that case, it's easier. Quiz order reverse 0, 10. All right, so you don't have to compute this value of length here. And minus 10. Okay, so you can do so. So this is option 1. So this is option 2. So option 1, option 2. Okay, use sorter to create a sorted list of quiz in reverse order. Okay. Or a quiz sorted reverse. And the best 10 scores group will be the first 10 elements of the sorted list. Okay. And to get the first 10 elements of quiz sorted reverse, you use slicing. And this time, okay, it's easier. Okay, 10 is fixed. All right, 10 is fixed. So you will just do quiz sorted reverse, starting from 0 because it's the first 10 scores, all the way, but not include quiz 10, not include the index 10. And you can remove this 0 here because starting point is by default is 0. And the final score with sum of these 10 elements of quiz sorted reverse. Okay. So in this case, reverse 2, option 2 seems to be much easier because you don't have to ask the user, ask the computer to compute this value to find length and then minus 10 to get the starting point. Rather, you sort it in the reverse order from highest to lowest, and the best 10 scores will be the first 10 elements of the sorted list. Okay. Now that's all for today. Thank you.